guys, welcome back to Ashar Books. Today I'm going to be doing my June wrap-up. It's so funny because some of these books, when I was looking back at them, I feel like I read a really long time ago, but I checked and I did read them in June. I think it's because some of them I talked about in some vlogs that I put up, so it feels like I already talked about them. So for those, I may be a little more brief, but anyways, let's get into the books that I read in June. I read 8 books in June, and it was kind of a mix this month of a couple physical books, a couple audiobooks, and then a couple ebooks. So kind of a good mix. It's kind of what I've been doing recently, and I feel like it's really working for me because, I don't know, sometimes if I get a little burnt out, if I switch to a different format, it seems to help keep the reading mojo alive, you know? So I think I forgot to do this last month, but I am gonna go ahead and go back to starting with my least favorite book of the month and then going up to my favorite book of the month at the end. So my least favorite, which makes me kind of sad to say, was Someone to Love by Mary Balogh. This is a historical romance, and this is like a recover of this book. I know it has a different cover as well. This is like in the like trade paperback form, and I bought it because I have never read anything from Mary Balogh, but she's like a titan in the historical romance world. She's written so many historical romances for years and years. She's definitely like a trailblazer in the field, or in the kind of subgenre. And I wanted to try something. And maybe in hindsight, I should have started with one of her newer books that I'd seen people really love recently. But this one I saw at the store and I liked the cover and I bought it and it sounded really good, but it just didn't work for me. This one follows Anna and what's his name? Avery. His last name's Archer. Confusing. But basically in this one, it's one of those like Anna was kind of like the illegitimate, well, they thought she was the illegitimate daughter of, I think it was like a Earl, and she grew up in an orphanage because she didn't know her family, but she turns out she had a lot of money and became into an inheritance, and Avery's kind of involved in helping her kind of basically become a lady, if you will, like kind of one of those tropes, and the two of them fall in love. My issue with this book, and I didn't give it a horrible rating, I gave it a 3-star, maybe like a 3.5, but it got better towards the end. But I think maybe I just am not used to her writing style. It was much more formal, and kind of much more descriptive, much more it almost like less dialogue. It kind of read to me, honestly, more like a traditional like romance. And when I mean that, I mean like an Austen or like a Bronte. Like it read a little bit like an older type of writing style, a little more descriptive, things like that. And it just, I don't know, like I felt like the characters, especially the hero, Avery, I felt like he was so kind of restrained, if that's a word. I just felt like I didn't get to know the characters, and it was all very formal, and it was kind of like if you'd read a book based on one of the period dramas where it's very, and I know that's probably accurate, but I kind of like mine a little more lively, I guess. You know, someone like, you know, Tessa Dare, or even Lisa Kleypas, who's my fave, or like a Stacey Reed or someone like that. I feel like somehow they managed to put like, and I know some people don't like this, but I do, is like they almost seem, the dialogue's very, it's very like, the dialogue is very heavy in the book. It's very lively. The characters are almost like not too historical, if that makes sense, and kind of like, I don't know, cold. Anyways, I feel like I'm like harping on this book. It's not a bad book by any means, and I did like it more towards the end. I definitely will still try another Mary Balogh book because I know there's some great ones out there. So if you have a favorite book by Mary Balogh, I know some of you guys read a lot of historical romance, so please let me know what your favorite is so I can try that one, because I'm not giving up. I don't know if this one was for me. And the rest of them are all 4 or 5 stars. So none of these books are by any means bad, but I'll kind of just go in my level of enjoyment. The next one I want to talk about was a 4-star read, and that was Better Than People by Rowan Parrish. I really liked this one. I really did. It was just pretty short, and I feel like that's why I ended up giving it a 4-star instead of 5. But this was a male-male romance, and I really thought it was adorable, to be honest with you. So this follows our 2 main characters, and one of our heroes is basically he's desperate for a pet. He wants a dog or a cat. He loves animals, but I think I'm pretty sure he moved in with his grandmother to help her, and I think she was allergic, so she like couldn't have a pet of his own. So he signs up for basically helping out people who need help with their pets, like dog walking or pet sitting, that kind of thing. And he shows up at the door of our other hero, who has like a plethora of animals, like dogs and cats, and is there something else? There may have been something else. I think it was only dogs and cats, but like a lot of them. And it was just so cute. It's their love story, and you know, it really dealt with, I will say, for a book that was pretty short, like it was a pretty short book, I felt like it did hit on a lot of different things, but obviously it's them falling in love, and both characters are going through a lot. Our hero, and I am blanking on names, so please forgive me, I'm so bad with names. I'm pretty sure our hero, who with all the animals' name was Jack, so I'm gonna call him Jack. If that's wrong, I'm sorry. But Jack just had surgery on his leg. He injured himself, so that's why he needs the help with the animals. And he's just feeling really frustrated in life. Like, he had a breakup not too long ago, and he's just feeling like he doesn't really like know his path forward anymore. Like, does he even like his career? Like, all that kind of thing. And it really touched on things in Jack's family with his brother. And then our other hero, Simon, who's the one who comes to pet sit, is the sweetest, like, marshmallow of a man I've probably ever read. He's so sweet. He's super inexperienced with like love and romance, because he really suffers with anxiety, especially any kind of like social anxiety. He just can't. He also has a speech impediment. He has a stutter, and you know, he just really struggles with anybody he doesn't know, like to the point where he has to like leave the situation. And it really went into that. And what I really liked about this is that they didn't try and fix either character. Like, both of the guys had issues, like we all do, and they had things that they were working on, and they basically, you know, showed that when you find the right person who supports you, you're not going to be fixed overnight. And I think Simon even says that at one point, like, you can't fix me. But having someone there to support you and say, I love you and I want you, even with these flaws, was so like beautiful to watch, and I really loved it. You know, it also was really spicy for such a short book and such a sweet book. I like when authors can kind of do both. I don't think it has to be like super spicy or super sweet. I think you can definitely have both as long as it melds well. But the spicy scenes were great. My other favorite thing about this was the animals. I mean, I'm a total animal person. I think if you love animals, you should definitely pick this book up, because there were just some really funny scenes with the animals. Each one has a really funny name and a personality that totally fits. I think my favorite was Pirate the cat, who they took on walks and just was the funniest cat. I'm a cat person, so I loved it. But super cute. Definitely pick it up if you're looking for something that's a little shorter, that has some good spice, has some good sweetness. It's also the first in the series, which I'm blanking on the name of, but I've read the third book, which was the Lights on Knockbridge Lane, and I really liked that one as well. So I gotta go back and read the second book now. Next one I want to talk about was called Royally Not Ready, and this is by Megan Quinn. This is the second book by Megan Quinn I read this month. I'll talk about the other one a little bit later because I liked it a little bit more. But this one I picked it up because I'd been kind of on a high from the first Megan Quinn book I read this month. I'd read her in the past, and this one is a royalty, from the title you can probably tell, romance, and basically it follows our heroine who is living in Miami, has no idea that she's related to royalty, and basically our hero is kind of like I think it's like the personal assistant to the king of this like kind of like Scandinavian country. Basically, it's a made-up country, who comes over and tells her, hey, like, you're actually in the line, like in the royal succession for the throne. I'm gonna need you to come with me over to this like country. And I saw someone when I was reading a review say that it was similar to like Princess Diaries, but like with a lot more spice. And pretty accurate. I don't think that's a bad thing because I love the Princess Diaries, and so I love royal romance. I haven't read too many recently. I got a little burnt out on them, but I read a ton like a few years ago. And I think they can be really fun. This one was just that. It was fun. You know, so she comes over, they have to go to this like house in the middle of kind of nowhere for her like training. Obviously the like assistant and her fall for each other, but it's like a whole thing of like, we can't do this. Like there's, you know, I'm not good enough for you. You're going to be royalty. And she's like, you're crazy. I feel like the reason this one got 4 and not 5 stars though for me, even though it was super fun and I really like the characters, and I do plan on reading the second book because just know this is a duology, which is pretty rare for Meghan Quinn. So you do really need to read both the books together, and I actually downloaded it already. I just haven't got to it yet, but they have an HEA, or at least a happy for now at the end of the first book, but the overarching plot and things like that are not wrapped up at the end of the first book. Anyways, so but this one, I just felt like, I've said before that Meghan Quinn books are so fun, but they can be a little over the top for me. It can be a little over dramatic. Their characters can be a lot. And sometimes that really works for me, and sometimes I feel like it is a little bit too much, and that in this case it was a little over dramatic for me. And also add in the fact that I just didn't fall in love with our heroine as much as I did with the one I'll talk about in a minute, and it just got a 4 star. I really liked it. I do want to read the other one. It just wasn't my favorite I've read. Also just know this is a spicy book, like really, really spicy. Just know that going in. But otherwise, super enjoyable. If you're looking for a royalty romance, check out this one. All right, the next one I want to talk about is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I read this one. I actually listened to most of it on audiobook, but I did own the book also, which I love this cover. Like the yellow with the floral and the bright pink. Like, yes, this is so pretty. But this was my first book by Catherine Center, and I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I feel like this was close. Like, that's why it's the last one I'll talk about. This was close to like a 4.5 maybe. I don't always do half stars. I probably should. But it had so many good qualities about it. I really like the writing style. I'll definitely read more from Catherine Center. This is definitely a romance to me, but it's definitely also pretty like low on the steam level, and I feel like, I'm trying to remember, I'm pretty sure this is closed door. I think all Catherine Center books are, which is totally okay. I like a variety in my romances, you know, but this one is really cool because the female character is the bodyguard, and this basically follows, okay, I'm looking up the name. Okay, so this follows Hannah, who is basically a bodyguard, or what do they call it? Personal protection agent. And she has always done this. She really likes to live her life like on the go, like she travels the world protecting different kind of high profile people. She has a lot in her background that she's dealing with. Her mom has recently passed away from cancer. And so Hannah is kind of a bit of a mess at the beginning. Like outwardly, she's super put together, super professional. She's like the uptight kind of person, but inside she's got a lot she's going through. And kind of that's why she likes to live her life like on the go, go, go. So she doesn't have to deal with things. And then Jack Stapleton is an actor, and he has to come home to Texas for a reason. And he's kind of one of those, like, I don't know, I almost pictured him as like a Chris Hemsworth or something like that. Like he's supposed to be kind of like an action star, super famous, has been in a ton of movies. Like, you know, he's someone that you would know if you walk by him in Walmart, you know? So because he's coming home to Texas, his team is like, you need someone to be there. Like you need some kind of security. In comes Hannah, much to her kind of like not wanting to. Hannah also has something she goes through with, her boyfriend at the start of this book. No, there is not any cheating or anything like that, I promise. But anyways, it's the two of them basically on this Texas ranch that his family lives at, and the two of them have forced proximity. There's like the kind of a same only one bed trope, but like she has to end up staying with them because she's protecting him. I really enjoyed this. This is such a fun book, but it also has a lot of heart to it. If you're looking for something fun, it's pretty short. I definitely recommend this. It's just a nice, fun, like sweet read. I really enjoyed it. Okay, the next one I'll talk about is my first 5-star read of the month, and that was Idol by Kristen Callahan. This is the first book in the, I think it's the VIP series, which is kind of like a rock star romance series, which does not always work for me, but I really love this series. I have already read the second book, Managed, which, knowing me, I read that before I read Idol, so I read them out of order. I think you'd be okay. You do get more context if you read them in order, but I think you could probably read them out of order. Also, sorry about the sun. It has somehow disappeared, but I'm gonna keep going because I only have a couple more books to talk about. So Idol was just so good. I actually had realized I read Idol like years ago as well. So technically I did read them in order. It's just the first one, I mean, it was to the point where I read it when it first came out. It's a little bit of an older book, and I didn't even have it listed on Goodreads, but when I started reading the book, first of all, it was already on my Kindle when I searched for it, and second of all, I was recognizing like the big plot themes, but I didn't really remember that much. So this follows our two main characters, which again, I'm pretty sure their names were Killian and Liberty, or Libby is what she goes by, and if that's wrong, you let me know in the comments. But Killian is a rock star from a very famous band, and it starts off the book where he gets super drunk and does something no one should do, and he drives his motorcycle too fast, and he goes through the fence and through the yard of Libby, who lives on her grandmother's old kind of farm, in a kind of old farmhouse, and I think it's in the Carolinas. I'm pretty sure it said it was near like the Outer Banks. So he drives his motorcycle through that, makes a whole mess. She's pissed off, rightfully so, and just like sprays this man down with a hose, and is just like basically like laying into him as one would. But she also can't leave this like injured man who's also drunk and has no idea what's going on, just like on her front lawn. So she takes him inside and is like, hey dude, like let's just come in and get you cleaned up and like, you know, make sure you're okay as well. So the story kind of goes from there. The first like half the book takes place in this small town at this farmhouse, and because he ends up like renting the house next door, and I really like that. I think that's part of why this makes it a really unique rock star romance. Some of the book later on does take place kind of like on the road, at shows and stuff, but I like the fact that they really bonded before that, and basically the two of them fall in love, and Libby has lost both of her parents recently, as well as her grandmother, and so she's dealing with a whole lot. She's very closed off from life, has kind of just like shut herself in, and she's just doesn't know what to do with herself. She feels like, you know what, the only way I'm gonna be safe is just to stay here on this like little patch of land, and I'm not gonna go anywhere, and no one needs to know me, and I won't be hurt again. And Killian really started breaking down those walls. Turns out her parents were musicians as well, and so she's always been as like a singer-songwriter, and the two of them really bond over music. Killian also had a lot he was going through. Something happened with a member of the band that really rocked them and made him kind of question, does he even want to do this anymore? And so it's their story, and then it kind of moves on from the farmhouse to, more of like a rock star location later on in the book. I love this book. Like, I really do. This series is great. I do want to read. There's 2 more books, I think, in the series, at least 1 more, and I really want to read them. If you're looking for something that has musicians but has a lot of heart as well, I really recommend this one. I loved our love story. I thought it was great. And I don't know. There were a few little things I guess I could pick apart. The kind of problem towards the end of the book I thought was not needed. It was a little annoying, but I overall enjoyed it so much that I didn't take off any stars for that. So super enjoyed this one. The next one I'll talk about is Right Man, Right Time by Megan Quinn. This one is another Megan Quinn. This is the one I read first that made me kind of like eager to read more from her. This is, I think, her newest release, and I just picked this one up on a whim, kind of. What I saw is, I'm pretty sure I saw somebody talking about it on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure it was Naima. I'll link her channel below because she's awesome. And I saw her like gushing about this book as she was reading it, and she totally sold it. I'm pretty sure that's who it was. And basically I downloaded it right then. I'm like, okay, this sounds great. It's 3rd in a series. I don't think you need to read them in order. They're, you know, pretty loosely, well, they're all about basically different members of a hockey team. Do want to go back and read the other ones, but this one was awesome. Basically, our heroine, she is desperate and she's in a bar and she's young-ish. She's like 21. Obviously, she's 21. She's in a bar, but she's 21 or 22, finishing up her last year of college, and she was just recently dumped by her boyfriend, and she sees her boyfriend out already with her arch nemesis in this bar and is like, oh my gosh, I've got to like make this man jealous. And like, our main character is so over the top, okay? She really is, but it's kind of part of her charm. So she basically sees this man sitting alone at a bar, and at the bar of the bar, you know, and she basically runs up to him, kisses him, and then pretends that like that's her boyfriend when her ex comes over. And meanwhile, he's just like, his name is Silas, and he's a hockey player, and he's like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? This girl just threw herself at me. But Silas has been through a lot too, because in the start of the book, I don't think this is really a spoiler, but he finds out that his girlfriend, who he lives with, who's been with since like high school, who he's about to propose to, is cheating on him, and he catches them cheating. It's a whole horrible first scene. So he's really heartbroken, hence why he's sitting alone in a bar. But they kind of form this plan to help each other, where they're going to basically pretend to date because she needs to make her ex jealous. And also she needs help with her internship, which she has to write this story on hockey. She knows nothing about hockey. She has no idea who Silas is. He's pretty big in the hockey world, but she has no idea. And then he was kind of reluctant at first because she is quite a bit younger than him. So he's, I think, 30. So it's like an 8-year age gap, maybe 10. I was a little worried how that would go, but I loved it. I thought it worked really well. They definitely bring it up a lot because he's like, oh my gosh, like he visits her like in her dorm room, and he's like, I feel really odd about this. But to me, it really worked. Like, I thought that they kind of worked through those problems between the age gap, but he also finds out that his ex is going to be working for the team and like really wants to like not look to him like pathetic. So they pretend to date. It's fake dating, and I love this book. Yes, it's over the top. Yes, our main character, who I am blanking on her name, y'all, why am I so bad with names? Because the funny thing is, in real life, I'm really good with names, but in books, I'm not. He's Silas, and what is her name? I keep trying to think it's Olive, but I don't think it is Olive because I think that's from another book I read. Anywho, she is over the top. She's kind of also, I will tell you, this book is kind of, the only word I can think of is like crass. Like, you know, she's constantly talking about like sexy times and like things like that. And like, she has basically no filter. She has no filter whatsoever. So if that bothers you, maybe this is not the book for you. I can totally see why this book maybe wouldn't work for everybody with the writing style and the dialogue and things like that. But for me, it worked, and it was so entertaining that I literally couldn't put this book down. So really enjoyed it. Definitely pick it up if you're interested. Okay. All right. I've got 2 more books to talk about. So Practice Makes Perfect, I think my second favorite book of the month, but probably one of my favorite books of the year. I feel like I've talked about this one quite a bit because I've talked about it in a vlog, and I've talked about it on Instagram, but I love this book by Sarah Adams. This is my first book by Sarah Adams, will not be my last. I loved it. I will say Sarah Adams does write kind of closed door romances, so, you know, just know that going in. But I will say she is very good at writing romantic scenes. Like, you still have that sexual tension between our characters, absolutely. It just, you know, it does close the door at a certain point. However, she did release a bonus epilogue for this couple that is not closed door, and that was very exciting to read. So anyways, this book follows Annie and Will. Annie is living in a small town. It's the second book. She lives from the first one, what was it called? When in Rome, I think. And she lives in Rome, Kentucky. She runs a flower shop, and she is horrible at dating. Just horrible. Like, she's very awkward. I think she's kind of anxious about it. She just feels like she's just not good at it. She hates dating. But she's like, I also want to settle down and I want to find my person. And I will tell you that this book really resonated like I understood Annie very well, which I'm sure says a lot about me. But because she wants to do that, the book starts off with her on this like horrible date where it's not great, okay? And then he's a bodyguard. I know all the bodyguard romances this month, but he's a bodyguard for her sister-in-law, who is the character from the first book, was Amelia. And so he has to come to town because they're about to get married, and he's going to be kind of her bodyguard or personal protection agent before the wedding. So she met him before, totally had like a crush on him, but didn't do anything about it. It's kind of same for him. Will is a kind of tattooed, dark-haired guy who, again, similar speaking, I feel like he kind of is got a lot he's dealt with in his past with his family, and his parents' marriage was not good, and he's kind of closed himself off, definitely more of a like one night stand type of guy, wants to live his life on the go, hence why he's like the bodyguard. But he sees her on this date and is like, are you okay? Like afterwards. And the two of them basically form this kind of agreement where he's going to be her dating coach and like help her figure out how to just go in and be more comfortable and like be herself, because he's like, you're amazing. The dude totally loves her from like page 2, okay? Like he totally, I don't know if I'd say he falls first, because I think she totally falls at the same time, but he's smitten, okay? The two of them are doing kind of not fake dating, but like they'll do like practice dates type things. It's so good. But obviously there is a big problem in the sense that like he's supposed to leave in like a month. Also, he's not really a relationship person. He is terrified of relationships based on his past. And Annie is like, I want a relationship. Like, that's the whole point of me trying to date. And so, you know, it's like, how are they going to get past that? How are they going to move forward? But I just love this. I think they both brought out such good qualities in each other. They both saw the good in each other and also saw the flaws, but said, you know what, the flaws aren't always bad. I really loved Annie. Annie was one of my favorite characters I've read recently. I mean, I love Will too, but like Annie just like struck something in me. I loved her. I think she is painted as this very kind of like goody-goody, good girl by her family, who basically are always painting her on this pedestal, which she's like, it's so hard to be on this pedestal. Like, I don't want to be here anymore, because you can't live up to it as you grow up. And she honestly is like, I don't want to be known as like the sweet angel in town anymore. Not that she wants to be like bad, but she just doesn't want that connotation that no one can live up to, right? So throughout the book, she really comes to kind of know herself as well. And like, I just love this book so much, like so much. Like, I kind of want to reread it already. Really good. Okay, I'm going to talk about the last book, which I'll probably keep kind of short, even though it was my favorite of the month, because I've been talking forever, and also I feel like I don't have much to say that everyone else hasn't said. But my favorite book of the month was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Yep, I read it like everybody else, I think, in the world in June. I was really nervous going into this book because you guys know, love fantasy romance. Love it. It's probably my favorite like subgenre if I had to pick one. But, you know, there were such big, like, shoes to fill. Like, there were such high standards for this book and hype that I was really nervous to go in because I wanted to love it. And you guys know what this book is about. It's about a basically school that you go to. It's like a military-based school. They're older, though. They're not. I think is she like 19 or 20? She's not like 16. She's older. And she basically had always thought she was going to be a scribe, our main character, but her mom is horrible and it's like, nope, you're going to be a writer, a dragon writer, and goes through this school that has all of these. Basically, if you survive the first year, you get to be a dragon writer, but so many people don't survive and then are main here and then so I feel like it is best to kind of just know that part of the book and go in kind of blind. Like, I really do. It's about a school, about people who are training to ride dragons. And that is all I feel like you need to know to go in. Yes, there is a romance. Yes, I loved the romance. So it's funny, like a couple of my friends had either just read this book or were reading it at the same time. So we were messaging then as soon as the hero walked on the page, who I'll kind of not say just in case you don't want to be spoiled on that, but I literally was like, that's the love interest, like that's him. Like, you know, as romance readers we can kind of spot it pretty fast, but I didn't care. Yes, it was a little cliche, but I didn't care. Like I thought this book was fantastic. Like obviously I'm talking about it last, it was my favorite book of the month. I loved it. Like I could not stop reading this book. I stayed up till like 2 a.m. trying to like get to a certain part, and then like I physically couldn't stop. I don't know what's in this book, but it is so addictive. Like from page 2 or 3, I was sucked in. You want to know what's going to happen to your characters. You want to know. And the thing is, a lot of it is for the first part going through kind of almost like trials, and I could see how it could be boring, but I was totally enthralled the whole time. I thought it was a good balance between the fantasy elements and the romance. I really loved the romance. I know I've seen some people who it didn't work for them. Totally worked for me. And I also love the dragons, which I won't say too much about because again, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but just know that like they were probably my favorite part of the book other than maybe the romance. I love the dragons. Like so good. And I have not read any book that has that good of like that a fantasy element in a really long time. I cannot wait for the second book. Like I'm on pins and needles over here. I also am a little nervous though because so much was packed in one book and there's supposed to be 5 books that I'm a little afraid of like what's gonna happen to our characters, like what's gonna happen to our babies between book 1 and 5. Like if this much happened in one book, I'm a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm really hoping that since Rebecca Yarros has a background as a romance writer, my hope is that she knows that we need some kind of an HEA at the end of this series. Okay, I know it's a series, so we don't need to get there right away, but like, I'm gonna need her to like remember that because I cannot take it. But anyways, I loved it. I'd love to know your opinion. You know, I know some people it didn't work for them and that's cool too, but for me it totally did, and I am so excited to continue the series. All right guys, so those are all the books I read in the month of June. Let me know what your favorite was, or if you read any of these, let me know what your thoughts, and I'll see you next time. Bye.